Okay, so now the recording is on. So, all right, this is week 2, DES 104, and we're going to be working tonight with retouching. One of the things that I do want to talk about, I've been having a conversation with Ms. J here. We're talking about our discussion 2, software tools, as they apply to design. According to the instructions, you guys are to pick a tool or a skill in Photoshop and make a how-to video using either the screencast video software, Jing, and there's a link to that, or during an appointment with me, which means essentially that if you do not know how to work with an external site, you're going to have to contact me, and I'm going to have to set up a time for you to come, and I will help you do that. That's the only way I can see it happening, unless you know Jing. So that's ultimately it. So I need you all to understand that. Wanda, are you in a quiet place?
Yes.
You're quiet. You were in a quiet spot, Wanda?
Yes.
Okay, so you can keep your mic on. Did you understand what I just said about the discussion for week 2?
No.
Okay, so essentially it's telling you to pick a skill in Photoshop, and you're going to make a how-to video. You're going to either use the screencast video software Jing, and there's a link to that, or you're going to have to set up a time to meet with me, and I'm going to have to help you do that.
All right.
All right? So that's the assignment. And then you can choose. It's really not a big deal. It's just one tool, really, and or skill, and anything you like. And you're basically just going to demonstrate how that tool works, or that skill works, and explain why you like it. Does that make sense now?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so that's essentially what it is. And again, I didn't really read this carefully enough, and I'm seeing now it says during an appointment with me. So here's the deal. I will be here tomorrow night. 7 o'clock, I'm sorry, it's actually 5 o'clock till 7 o'clock Mountain Time. So if you want to come in between 5 and 7 Mountain Time, I will record that period with you, and I will cut your piece out of the recording and get it to you, okay? And that's the best that I can do. And Desiree, we're talking about the assignment for the week. Are you in a quiet place, Desiree? All right, where it is quiet? Desiree, can you speak?
Yes, I'm in a quiet place.
Okay, so basically we're talking about the assignment. And you're going to make a how-to video on some aspect of Photoshop. Doesn't have to be a long one, but you're going to talk about some tool. It tells you to use the software Jing, or you're going to have to come here, and I'm going to have to help you by recording it. So one way or the other, you have to do that. And what I'm saying is, I'm here on Tuesday night from 5 o'clock to 7 Mountain Time, which is the same time as this. Wednesday, I'm here from 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock Mountain Time. And Saturday, I'm here from 7 o'clock till 12 o'clock Mountain Time. So any one of those 3 days, if you want to come in, I will try to help you with your project, which is, in this case, a discussion. Now, of course, the problem with that is that I would like the discussion to be in by Wednesday. Now, I'm not sure how that's going to work, because I simply can't help every single student tomorrow night. I don't think it's going to happen. It's not enough time to do that. And Wednesday would be the only other night. So you might keep that in mind. All right?
Okay,
any questions from anybody?
Yes. Yeah.
No? Hello?
Hello.
No questions?
No.
Okay. All right. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on, and we're going to be looking at some We're going to be looking at retouching, retouching photos. I have several videos, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these videos in your announcements so that you have the videos and announcements. But I'm going to show a couple of videos before I actually do some work. All right, and that's my next step, is to actually show the videos. Then after that, I'm going to go in and I'm going to walk through the process of doing as much of the retouching on 2 of the photos as I possibly can so that you guys can actually see me do some of this. Then what I want to do is, before the end of the night, I got a project that actually was something that I did for a company I currently work for. And it is a different form of retouching, but it is retouching nonetheless. And it will give you a very good idea of how retouching could be employed in the real world, because this is a real project that was used. As a matter of fact, I'm still working on the project that involves this picture. So I'm going to be showing you that this week, and I might even show you a little bit of it next week, because it's a very involved process to do what I did. And I'm going to demonstrate a little bit tonight how I did it, and I'll demonstrate a little bit next week how I did it. Okay? So let's watch these videos for a few minutes, and then I'll go in and I'll actually show you some of my own work with the retouching.
Hi, this is Marty from Blue Lightning TV. I'm going to show you how to create smooth, blemish-free skin from a photo. This is an update of a tutorial I did on an earlier version of Photoshop. Open a photo you'd like to retouch. I downloaded this one from Shutterstock.com. The first step is to make a selection of your subject's skin. There are many ways to do this, so choose the method that works best for you. For example, you could use your quick selection tool and drag over the skin to select it. To remove areas of the selection, press and hold Alt or Option as you drag over it. Go to Select and Refine Edge. I did an in-depth tutorial on Refine Edge, so I won't be going over all the details here. Check Smart Radius and increase the radius a little bit. Brush over the areas where the hair overlaps the skin and output it as a new layer with Layer Mask. Click the box next to your original photo to make it visible, and go to Filter, Blur, and Surface Blur. For this image, I'll make the radius 16 and the threshold 12 levels. However, you may want to adjust these amounts depending on the size and resolution of your photo. Choose a combination that smooths out the skin just enough to hide most blemishes and imperfections. Don't be concerned about its texture yet. We'll take care of that in a minute. Next, we'll restore back the areas of the face that we don't want smoothed out, such as the eyes, eyebrows, and lips. To do this, click the Layer Mask to make it active, and open your Brush tool and your brush picker. We'll take care of the size in a moment. Make the hardness 0% and the opacity and flow 100%. Then press Enter or Return. To make your brush larger or smaller, press the right or left bracket key on your keyboard. Brush over any areas you want to reveal back the original unretouched photo and adjust the brush size accordingly. I'll brush inside the eyebrows, eyes, and eyelids, lips, and fine hair overlapping the forehead. If you have areas of the face where the skin pores didn't smooth over, let's blur them a bit so they'll blend into the face. Make the face layer active and open your blur tool. Make its strength 100% and adjust its size accordingly. Brush over those areas to blend them in. Next, we'll remove any spots left on the face. Open your spot healing brush. Make sure the Content Aware button is active. Adjust the size of your tool a bit larger than the blemish and brush over it. Continue until all the blemishes, scars, and other imperfections are removed. When you're done, go to Filter, Noise, and Add Noise. Tick Gaussian and check Monochromatic. Drag the slider to an amount that results with the grain that matches the rest of your image. I'm using an amount of approximately 1.5%. However, your image may require a different amount depending on its size and resolution. This is Marty from Blue Lightning TV. Thanks for watching.
Okay, so what do you think? I mean, he made it look very simple, didn't he?
Yes.
All right, well, you know what? I'm going to make sure that you get these links in your announcements so that you can go back and watch the videos again. The most important thing for you to understand about this, there's probably 10 or more different ways that you could accomplish the same thing. And what Marty was showing you is one way to do it. And actually, his way was pretty simple, really. You just need to watch the video a couple of times to get the flow of what he was doing. I'm going to do a demonstration which will be somewhat similar to what he did, but again, it'll probably be a little bit different. There are more than one way to go. That's really the important thing. Okay? Any questions about anything? Any questions about what you just saw or anything you want to ask me about? Okay, so there's this one here, which is the most complicated. I'll wait for the end on this. Here's another one, Beautiful Eyes. This one is kind of fun, and watch this.
French restaurant down the street. Think I might have a shot at SoCo.
Okay, here we go. Beautiful Eyes.
Hi, this is Marty from Blue Lightning TV. I'm going to show you a technique that will brighten and enhance the eye's irises as well as change their colors. This works especially well for irises that are originally dark. Open a photo of a person you'd like to use. I downloaded this one from Shutterstock.com. Make a copy of it by pressing Ctrl-J on Windows or Command-J on a Mac. Let's zoom into one of the eyes. To do this, press Z on your keyboard to open your zoom tool and drag a rectangle over the eye. To reposition it on your screen, hold down the space bar and drag your image. Open your brush tool and make sure the hardness is 0% and the opacity and flow are 100%. We'll adjust the size in a moment. Make sure your foreground and background colors are black and white respectively. If they aren't, press D on your keyboard. Click the Quick Mask icon so we can brush in quick masks over the irises. To reduce the size of your brush, press the left bracket key. Now, brush across the inside perimeter of the iris and make sure there are no holes in the quick mask. To quickly fill it in, open your paint bucket tool and left-click inside the quick mask. Press B to open back up your brush tool and brush over the empty areas. Hold down the space bar to slide the image over and brush over the inside perimeter of this iris. Press G to open your paint bucket tool and left-click inside the quick mask. Press B again to open back up your brush tool and brush in the rest. If you need to zoom out a little so you can see both eyes on your screen, press Ctrl or Command and the minus key. Press Q to make the quick masks into selections, and then invert the selections by pressing Ctrl or Command Shift I. Click the layer mask icon to make a layer mask of the selections next to the active layer. Click the new layer icon to make a new layer. Go to the layer mask and hold down Alt or Option as you drag a copy of it next to the empty layer. Click on the empty layer to make it active and change its blend mode to overlay. Make sure white is the foreground color and make the opacity 50%. Increase your brush size by pressing the right bracket key. Now, brush over the bottom half of the iris a few times to brighten it. Then, brush over the screen left iris to brighten it. As I toggle back and forth, you can see that the color is brighter and more vibrant. Click the thumbnail of layer 1 to make it active, and go to Filter, Sharpen, and Unsharp Mask. This will sharpen the details within the iris. I'll choose an amount of 40%, the radius is 10 pixels, and the threshold is 0 levels. Depending on the size, resolution, and characteristics of your photo, experiment with these settings to get just the right amount of sharpness. As I toggle back and forth, you can see the difference. After you apply Unsharp Mask, if you want to make it look less sharp and have less contrast, just reduce its opacity. Next, we'll change the eye color. Make the top layer active and click the adjustment layer icon. Choose Hue Saturation. Go to the layer mask and drag a copy of it on top of the layer mask at the top. If you see this warning to replace it, click Yes. Click the icon next to the layer mask to make the adjustment layer active, and drag the hue slider to the right and left to change the eye color. If you want to tone down the color, reduce the saturation. I'll reduce mine to -46. To see your entire document, press Ctrl or Command 0. This is Marty from Blue Lightning TV. Thanks for watching.
So, you know, again, you're going to have to watch the video a little bit. You'll have to watch the video a couple of times to get to the point where you're probably comfortable to try it yourself. You can do a slightly different variation. There's many different ways that you could do this. I'm going to try to show you in my own way, the easiest way, so that you could try this yourself. You have two pictures that I would recommend that you work with. One of them is the photograph of the children and their dogs, and the other, there is a girl. And I would probably work on those. I worked on those. I had students come to me while I was an instructor. I was actually working in Blackboard and tried to help them with the cat picture. And let me tell you something, that cat picture is a total nightmare. So I would try to avoid doing that cat picture simply because it's such an incredible nightmare, okay? Got any questions about that video or anything you want to ask me about at this point? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you another video. I got two more videos, and then I'm going to actually go in. I got lips here. I want to show you how to do these lips. So I'm going to hit the lips video, and we'll watch the lip video.
Hi, this is Marty from Blue Lightning TV. I'm going to show you a super simple way to give photos of lips an endless variety of colors, and the best part is to look like real lipstick. This document is 1280 by 720 pixels with a resolution of 72 pixels.
All right, I'm stopping the video. The reason I'm doing this is because I want you to see what Marty's doing. He is taking a look at the image size and resolution of his the piece of art that he's working with. If you remember, I went over this week 1, and I told you how important image size and resolution is. This picture has a resolution of 72 pixels per inch, which is a very low resolution. However, the width of it is nearly 8 inches. It's at least 17 3/4 inches wide, and it has a height of 10 inches. So it's actually a pretty large image, and you could very easily reduce this size and increase the resolution easily and still end up with a nice size picture. So it's very important for you guys to understand this concept of image size and resolution. Okay? Do you have any questions about that? I did go over this on my last week, but I just stopped the video here because he was talking about this, and I thought, see here, he's talking about it because it is an important thing for you all to know, especially if you're going to be doing work with print. When you're doing work with print, resolution of 72 pixels per inch is too low a resolution for print. And depending upon the type of print that you're going to be doing, you need at least 2 times, if not 4 times, the amount of resolution. So 72 and 72 would be somewhere around 150, just a little bit less, but 150 is about a mid-range resolution, and 300 pixels, which would be twice again 75, or 150 and 150 would be 300, that would be high resolution. So it's very important that you know this. And the only way that you're going to get that resolution to go up is by decreasing the size of the picture. So this is 17 inches. It's going to end up going down to about 8.5 inches to get you up to 150, and it's going to go down to like about somewhere around a little over 4 inches to bring it up to 300 pixels per inch. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any questions about that, or anything that you want me to clarify when it comes to this? This is really important. I think if one of the things that you're going to learn in Photoshop, this is definitely one that is absolutely critical to know. And when you go to resolution and you increase the size of the resolution, this is going to want to automatically reduce in size unless you deselect resample image. If you deselect resample image, it's not going to resample. But if you have resample image selected and you change the size of this, it's going to adjust the size accordingly for you. And it's very important that you know that. So when you're working with images, especially in print, the images have to be big enough and it has to have enough resolution to do what you want it to do. And if it doesn't, you need to get another image. All right? Are we good?
Yes.
Let me bring the video back then.
Pixels per inch. Call up your brush tool, make sure your foreground color is black, your mode is normal, and the opacity is 100%. Press the letter Q to instruct your brush to paint a quick mask. To reduce your brush size, click on the left bracket key a couple of times. And then brush over the lips until you've filled in their shape, leaving a space in between them if there is one. Press the letter Q to make the quick mask into a selection, and then invert the selection by pressing Control or Command-Shift-I. Go to Select, Save Selection, and type in Lips. Click on the adjustment layer icon and choose Solid Color. Let's pick a bright red color. In the Layers panel, now just switch the blend modes to blend the color with the lips. Click on Darken to get a super rich red lipstick color. Reduce its opacity if you'd like it less intense. I found Soft Light works really well too. The other blend mode that gives the lips a nice natural look is Hue. This mode is the most subtle. Try experimenting with other colors. Click on the color in the adjustment layer, and when the color picker opens, choose another color. Let's try fuchsia. It's a bit garish, but we can adjust it with other adjustment layers. Press Control or Command as you click on the lips layer mask. This will call up its selection. Click on the adjustment layer icon and choose brightness and contrast. Place your cursor between the two adjustment layers. When you see this clipping mask icon, press Alt or Option as you click. This will slide the top adjustment layer to the left. If you don't do this, this adjustment layer won't...
All right, I'm stopping this here too. What he's doing is this adjustment layer normally will work on every layer here. But by clicking between this layer and that layer, he's making the program choose to apply this adjustment layer to just that layer. That's what he's trying to do. Does that come across? Do you understand when he's doing this?
Yes.
Okay.
Isn't that the same as a clipping mask?
Well, this is a clipping mask, and it is similar to that. But what he's doing here is he's taking an adjustment layer, which is normally set up to function on every layer beneath it. So in other words, that adjustment layer will function on every single layer until he goes in and he asks the program to accept the bottom layer as the layer of target for this adjustment. Now what he's about to do is he's going to click this, and this is going to move over, and there'll be an arrow pointing down to that layer. Watch. And that will mean that it's now going to work only on this layer and not any layer below it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, now watch. Watch what he does.
You can also click on this icon to do the same thing.
Watch this.
Adjust the brightness and contrast until you're happy with the results. Using this simple method of applying a solid color adjustment layer and then changing its blend mode is quick and effective. This is Marty from Blue Lightning TV. Thanks for watching.
There you go. Okay. So the last one that I'm going to show you is very complicated. And what I said to you was I'm not going to show you lips 2 because I'll let you look at lips 2 yourself. But I want to show you remove acne. This is complicated, but it really is interesting, and he does a good job with it. So watch what he does here. There we go.
Today I'm going to show you guys how to remove acne in Photoshop. Hey guys, and welcome to Explorin. My name is Aaron Nath, and you can find me on Explorin.com, where we make learning Photoshop and photography fun. Today's episode is all about removing acne, and we've basically built up a bunch of different techniques and tried a bunch of things out and figured out the best technique for removing acne in Photoshop, and that's what today's episode is all about. And we got the idea because someone left a comment on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much. Nisha said, how can you remove acne in Photoshop? So Nisha, this episode is dedicated to you and everyone else who wants to learn how to remove acne in Photoshop. The image we're working on today is from the awesome folks at Fotolia.com. It's a stock website, and you can find all kinds of really cool images on there for download. Now, this is a really great acne, and I was like,
Fotolia.com. There's for pictures. Fotolia.com.
okay, if I'm going to show people how to remove acne, we got to find an image that has a lot of acne. I'm not going to just do one pimple and call it an episode. So here is a great image because it gives us a couple of problems, big problems that we have when we're encountering acne. And the first one is the redness. It's going to cause a lot of redness on your skin. I had acne in high school, and it sucked, and I know even if you pop a zit, you're still going to have some redness. So we're going to show you how to get rid of the redness first, and then we're going to show you guys how to actually get rid of each of these little guides. It's going to totally change this image by the time we're done. First thing we're going to do, I'm going to create a hue saturation adjustment layer. So let's go to our adjustment layers, and I'm going to go down to hue/saturation. Okay, now here in the hue saturation, you can just click and drag the hue, and it'll basically just change what's going on in your entire image. Or you can actually select your color range. So in this case, it's going to only select reds or yellows, whatever it has. So I'm going to click on the reds, and this is going to allow us a lot more options to kind of like really narrow down exactly what we want to affect. So we're just affecting the reds now. And what I'm going to do, I want to see what the changes I'm going to make are. So I'm going to just temporarily crank up the hue and the saturation. Okay, so we get something like this. Now, this is not how we want it to be in the end. It's just going to help me see. Okay, so hue and saturation are cranked up on the red. Now, there's a slider down here, and you may never have noticed this before. Basically, what the slider does is it takes the above color and turns it into the beneath color. So it's taking red now and turning it into green. Now, if I click on this slider right here in the middle, I can actually move this around, and it's going to affect different parts of my image. Now, as I go to the left, right over here, you can see that it's right about here. It's targeting those pimples, which is really, really cool. So over to the right, it's kind of affecting all the reds. But as I bring it over to the left, it's starting to target just those pimple areas. So this is exactly what we want. I'm using this like bright green color to see where it's targeting. So it should highlight your lips as well as any of the pimple areas. So this looks good as far as showing us what's actually going to be affected. So now that we know what's going to be affected, we're going to bring our saturation down to 0. We're going to bring our hue. I'm going to hit 0 there as well. So it's totally back to normal. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to bring my hue to the right just a little bit, okay? And that's going to give it more of a skin tone color. So, I can bring it to the left and it's going to be horrible. To the right, it's going to give us a little bit closer to skin tone. I'm also going to take my lightness and we're going to bring that up as well. All right, there we go. So we can bring up our saturation just a little bit as well. Okay, and you want to find a hue that's right there similar to your coloration. So hue, saturation, and lightness, bring all those up once you've targeted those reds. Okay, let's go ahead and see what this looks like with the before and after. I'm just going to turn this off and on, and you can see it's taking care of a lot of our redness. Now, we need some color back in our lips, so we're just going to click on our hue, saturation, layer mask, and I'm going to paint with black with a regular paintbrush right there on the lips. There we go, and it's going to bring the color back. Now you can see it's also getting rid of some of this color that's in the cheeks and things like that. That's okay. If we need to bring that back after we get rid of this acne, it's totally okay. We can bring that back afterwards. So there's step one, getting rid of the redness, and this is a really great way to do it. Okay, step two, we're going to create a new layer, and I'm going to use the spot healing brush. Now, the spot healing brush, they've actually made a bunch of great changes with the spot healing brush, and I like it a lot more than I used to. So if you guys have Photoshop CC, CC 2014, or even CS6, you're going to have access to these features. So the spot healing brush, I'm going to click on this content aware, and that's going to figure out what's around this actually, the area that I'm actually trying to get rid of, and it's going to fill it in automatically. They've really done a good job with this. So content aware, and I'm going to click on sample all layers. That's going to make sure I can actually do this on a new layer. All right, and now all I have to do is kind of paint over all of my blemishes. So I'm using a pressure-sensitive tablet here, but you can use a mouse for this. I would recommend using about the same brush size as the actual blemish. So in this case, because I'm using a pressure-sensitive tablet, I'm just not pressing very hard over these areas where I have my blemishes. So I want to cover about what the blemishes are. So a larger blemish, you'll just kind of cover up more of the area, and a smaller blemish, you'll just kind of cover a little bit less of the area. And that's going to help keep things really nice and even. So what I do is I go over this over a couple different passes. My first one is all about getting rid of the actual, like the spots that you totally see like that, that spot, things like that little guy. So this is like my first pass. It's basically going and actually taking care of like those spots that we see. Now my second pass, which I'm going to start in just a little bit, is kind of going to take care of like more blotchy areas and things like that. So this is pretty good. We're looking, there we go. That's a blotchy area that I was talking about right there. All right, so we're looking pretty good. Let's just go ahead and remove those spots, and yeah, we're on our way to looking good. So now let's time to remove the blotchy areas. So we got rid of the blotchy areas with color. Now I'm going to do it with, lights and darks and things like that. So we're going to zoom out here on the image, and then like this area, it's just a little bit blotchy. So I'm just going to kind of paint over that entire area. It's going to sample skin that's a little more even and fill it in for me. Even this area here and that area there. And the cool thing about this tool is if you don't like what you've done, like if you paint over and it doesn't look good, you can either use your eraser tool or you can just paint it in again. Because what it does is it's going to sample a different part of your image and it's going to paint it right over on top of your image again. All right, we're almost done here. I'm just kind of targeting these areas, and you can see this took almost no time because the majority of our work was done when we got rid of the redness in the image. So now we're just kind of taking care of some of the texture areas. All right, doing some skin smoothing while we're at it. So that's just going to take care of the larger areas. So start off with the small little pores and things like that, then zoom out and take care of your larger areas. Okay, now this looks great. We're going to add a little bit more redness back to the skin just because it's like to help it look a little bit more natural or like it did before. So we're going to make a new layer. I'm going to grab my brush tool. I'm going to grab this color that's in our lips already, and I'm just going to paint right there over top of our face. Change this from normal down to something like soft light, and then we can just bring it way down. That's just going to help add a little bit more color. Again, that's not a totally necessary step, but generally faces will have some color changes, right? You're going to see some like oranges, some reds, and things like that. And if you just bring all the hue and the saturation like we did earlier, if you make it all the exact same hue, it's not going to look exactly right. So with this, I'm just adding a little bit more color into the face. There we go. We can do down here as well. And that's just going to help it look a little bit more realistic and not like we just did it in Photoshop and now he's just got one color on his face. All right. Very cool. Let's go ahead and see the before and the after. So here's our before. and our after. All right, guys, that's it for removing acne in Photoshop. You can see how easy it is because we take care of the redness first, and then we take care of our textures. And thanks again for Nisha for suggesting this episode. And if you guys have ideas for future episodes you'd like to see here on Flearn.com, just leave them in a comment down below because that's how we get our ideas for our episodes. And if you like what we're doing here at Flearn, you want to get a couple free videos every single week, just subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Okay, so there you have it. Now, while that bit with the removing color using the sliders is a little bit on the tricky side, I will grant you that. The important thing for you to understand is that, what's going on here? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I see some weirdness going on down here. I don't know what that is. Okay, so anyway, one of the real reasons that I wanted to show you this was not so much because of the slider thing, although you could probably watch that and you could try it. The problem that you have is you really don't have that guy's picture, so you really can't really apply that thinking to it. But what he did was he spent a lot of time with the spot healing brush. And the spot healing brush is a brush that you're going to use much in both of your assignments this week, which is the retouching of the photos. So you saw this guy working with the spot healing brush. I'm going to go in and I'm going to work with the spot healing brush, and I'm going to show you that. And between looking at the videos and watching what I do and asking me questions, hopefully you'll feel confident enough to go in and do this. And I'll be honest with you, I've had at least 3 students already who have submitted their work, and 1 or 2 of them look pretty good. So some of them apparently were able to figure it out by themselves. So let me get rid of this now, and let me open up Photoshop. And what we have here, this is one of our, I'd love to know what's going on with this thing. What's that thing here? What's that? Well, I don't know what that is. I don't know why it's there. Okay, so here's the assignment, and this is my fix. Okay, you can see I did a fix on it. This is not what I do for a living. I don't retouch photos like this, so I am not the best at doing this. I mean, people are probably a whole lot better at this than I am, but this was my effort at doing this. All right, and I'm going to go through the process of what I did to make this work. Okay, now the other one is there's the girl. Here's the girl, and I'm going to show you the cleanup on the girl, and then the actual retouch on the girl. So there's a 2-step thing to make this girl look good. There's step number 1, which is the cleanup, the general cleanup, and then the retouch of elements to make the girl look good. You can see I've changed her eyes, her lips, and I've actually made her skin a lot more shiny and give her a much more sumptuous kind of look. So that's what I did there. And then the last thing I'm going to show you is this guy right here, which you look at it and you say, well, you know, where's the retouching there? Well, let me start off by showing you that. You see these shadows here? Watch this. The shadows are gone. Now watch this. All the cabinets that are white, gone. That's what the original picture looked like. And the reason this was done was because this company, it manufactures cabinets, and they use different materials. And unfortunately, they have a line of about 14 different materials that are brand new, and they haven't built any cabinets with them yet. So what they did was they supplied me 14 pictures, and they gave me color swatches of the sample material for the cabinetry, and I had to reface the pictures in Photoshop. So there's the actual refacing, and to make it look believable, I had to also incorporate all the shadowing onto the boxes as well. So here you're looking at a form of retouching, which is not much different than what goes on here and here. But again, the big difference is that this is actually something that's being used by a company. This is being used in a book. And I had to actually create 14 of these. So one of the things that I want to do before I'm done tonight is show you a little bit about how I did this. But we're going to go back and we're going to start with this. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through the process of doing this. This is what you're going to have to do. So you're going to basically start off by just observing that there's a lot of little crud here that needs to be touched up. And what I did with this, let me just go back to the fix and let me open up the fix layer. And you can see that I got several layers here. I got that layer here where I began to work, and I got this layer here where I actually began to work. Okay? So actually between the two layers, that's my fix layer. That's what I actually did to fix that. All right? You could probably pull the same thing off in one layer, and that's what I think I'm going to try to do tonight. So if you go back to what this person originally told you, you start off by creating a new layer. This is the background layer. This is the layer that we're going to work on. So we're going to create a new layer, and we're going to call this fix. Okay? That's going to be my fix layer, and I'll probably drag this one above it. Let me just get the fix one right above this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to get my, where are we at? It's my spot healing brush. Okay, now what you're going to do is, since I'm going to be working on a layer, a separate layer, I have a background layer. This is where I want to sample my material from, right? Which is the stuff that I'm going to use to create my fixes, so to speak. So I need to come in here and I need to click on content aware. So that's the important thing. We're using this right here. This is the tool right here, spot healing brush, content aware, and also check sample all layers. I really don't know on your computer what you're going to find. You may find sample all layers already checked, and if it is, you just leave it alone. But more than likely, you're not going to find content aware selected. What content aware will do is it will enable you to go down and check what's on this layer and morph it onto that layer so that your fix gets done on the upper layer. Am I making sense to you guys? Are there any questions? No?
No.
Okay. So then basically the only other thing you need to know is that there, see the little circle? That's my actual tool. Now, if you look on your keyboard, you got some right next to your O and P. You see where your O and P keys are? Right next to it on the right, there are two fancy brackets. Do you see them? You see the two fancy brackets on your computer keyboard? If you click on the one that's on the right-hand side, you can make your selection area bigger. If you click on the right one, you can make it smaller. Okay, so what you're doing is you're trying to make it about the size that you need to do your healing. I'm on the fix layer, and I'm going to be sampling from the lower layer. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now I'm going to come in here, and I'm just going to draw around on this layer, and you see I got little tiny spots of white there. I'm clicking on them, and then I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to hit that one, and I'm going to go over here and I'm going to hit that one, and click and click, and I'm removing little white spots that I see. Okay, and I'm just going to move around, and I'm going to come in and I'm just going to keep working on these little spots of badness. What else can I call them? Badness. Silly. Yeah, I'm just going to click, and what it's doing is it's sampling right around the material, and it's repairing them. So you're just going to keep doing that until you've cleaned up the entire image. It's really very simple. See, even here there's something going on with that. I'm going to try to clean that off. See, and it's actually... Now, here's the problem. This is where you got to watch out. If you get too close to something radically different, like a shirt, it's going to want to sample that shirt. And so you got to go Control-Z to undo that. You got to stay away from abrupt changes on things. You got to be very careful with that. So now here's a bigger area. So I'm going to come in and I'm just going to start wiping over that bigger area. Oop, there we go. Okay. And again, just start looking for the things that you want to correct and go in and very slowly. Now, the hair, what I'll do is I'll just run straight down the hair, and that actually worked out okay. Click there real quick. Click over here. I see a spot right here. I'm going to click on that. I see a spot here. I'm going to click on that. And I'm just going to keep clicking and removing the spots. And if I see it left a little bit, I'll go back and hit it again. Let's try the hair, see if I can get the hair straightened out, and that's not too bad. There, that actually don't look too bad. There we go. You notice I went back and did it a second time because I wasn't entirely happy with what it did. Now, here's a place where we're going to run into a problem. This girl's face. I'm right on the edge of her face here. I may end up with a problem here. So let me try that and see how that goes. Yeah, see, it's sampling the mouth. It's doing all kinds of weird things. So I'm going to go Control-Z to undo that. Let me hit that one first, and let me hit that one. I will try to make my sampler smaller and see whether the smaller sampler works. That may help just enough to get me by this. Yeah, not really. Okay, so then the other thing I would do maybe is I'd come over here and I would get my my clone stamp tool, and I'd make the clone stamp tool real small, and I'd come in here and I'd hold down the Alt key to sample that, and then just move down a little tiny bit, and that really is not working that well either. Let's click and drag that down, see if I can make that work. Let's click on this and see if I come up and make that work. All right, there, that's a little better. And let me click over here. You know what? Let me try this. Over here, I actually think I probably need to make this a little smaller. So what I'm doing is I'm using the clone stamp tool to sample areas, and I'm actually trying to repaint. There, that's not too bad. You see how I kind of fixed that jaw area with the clone stamp tool? So the thing you need to know about the clone stamp tool is you're going to go to find where you're going to sample from and hold the Alt or the Option key. You're on a Mac. If you're on a Mac, it's the Option key, the Alt key if you're on a PC. And that's how I fixed that little area right there. All right, and then I'll just go back to my clone stamp tool because all this other little stuff is just a matter of, you know, sort of cleaning up things that I see. This is really what you're ultimately doing here. You're just kind of cleaning up things that you see. Anything that you don't like the look of, you can go in and you can clean it up. See, little stuff like this, clean all that up. Okay, Control-Z, because that didn't work out. Let's try that. That didn't work out either, Control-Z. It's very hard. Let me try just hitting it. Well, yeah, it's not really working either. I guess what I would do with that is come back and maybe try this again, where I would come over here and click and hold down the Alt key and then just move it down and click and move it down and click, and that's actually a little bit better, okay? So I'm using this. I'm using the clone stamp tool, and I'm using the not the quick selection tool, the spot healing brush tool. So really, the spot healing brush tool, if it's a simple thing like this, spot healing brush tool works great. You just come in and you just hit the spots, and you have no trouble with it at all like this. All this stuff, I'm just cleaning it up, you know, and stuff like this you can clean up as well. Not really sure whether that's something you need to clean up or not, but I am because I'm seeing it. And I'm just going to keep going around and finding the spots where I need to clean this up. Here's where I'm going to get into a little bit of trouble again. Let's see how this works out. Okay, so far so good. Keep moving over. Yeah, see, it's beginning to cause me problems. So when I have that occur, then I'm going to get the clone stamp tool, hold down the Alt or the Option key, and then just slowly walk down with that tool. And again, I'll probably have to hold the Option key a couple of times to get that to work. But I'm just going to kind of go in there and I'm going to clone it and make it disappear. That's essentially what I'm doing here, is I'm just cloning it and making it disappear. And I could do the same thing kind of here, hit that, and see how I've kind of got that cleaned up? And then I go back to my spot healing, hit some spots. When I see spots, I hit the spots. There we go. And that's it. And let's see what we got. Let's go view, fit, artboard, and window. Fit all on screen, I mean. I have some over here that I need to fix still, so let me just get them out. Let me get them out of the way. Come in here and click these guys and clean them up. Yeah, see, some of them they have trouble with. Some of them they really do struggle with. So you have to kind of think, is there a better way to do it? And when you get into that kind of a trap, what I generally do is come here with the clone stamp tool. Maybe I'll make that just a little bit bigger. And then again, I'll hold down the Alt or the Option key, sample, Move it over, move it over, move it over, and sample. And see what I'm doing is essentially cleaning that up by just sampling something close by it. And that I went a little bit off. I'll fix it. In here, click, sample, sample, sample. There we go. So it's much better that way. And then I come back to my spot healing brush, click in here and clean that up. Okay, and then click over here and clean that up. And just be careful of his head. And see what happens? Like I say, it's sampling. And what happened is it's sampling into the hair, so now the hair is bleeding in. So when that occurs, I just come over here and I sample from here using the clone tool and then bring it in and clone it in. And there you go, it's gone. So really, some of the old tool and some of the new tool work. And you can see this is starting to look pretty good. Any questions about that so far? What do you guys think? Can you handle that? Does that seem like easy enough for you to do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is where it really begins to get ugly. Okay. So we have this huge gaping wound on this thing, and it's really, really tricky to rebuild this thing. You can see, I'll bring back my fix, and you can see my effort to do it. Again, I'm going to say this to you. I am not a retoucher. I don't retouch photos. This is not what I do for a living. So I'm a little bit on the inarticulate side doing this, but I'll give it another shot. You can see this is my first shot. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to come in. Oh, and I noticed there's one more right here. I'm going to use the clone stamp on that one, I think. So I'm going to click that, hold down the Alt key, and then come up and pop that down. And there, that one's gone. Okay. So what I generally do here is I generally try using the clone stamp tool, and that right here. Let me go in and let me try the clone stamp tool the spot healing brush. Let's see if I can get some of this to go away with the spot healing brush. See, it's not going to be too happy about doing that. See how it's not working really? It just doesn't want to do it. There's too much going on. So when that starts to occur, oh, and there's one other thing. You see I got the history brush here? The history panel. You see where I started doing these spot healings? I don't like what it did here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that, and that brings me back to that point, and all of those heals that I tried to do are gone now. So what I will now do is, in this case, I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to get the clone stamp tool, and I'll probably make this a little bit bigger, and then I'll come in here and I will start cloning in this area here and see whether I can kind of rebuild that tree area first. See if I can get some of that tree area to rebuild. So what I'm doing essentially is I'm trying to kind of fill in some of that tree. See what I'm doing? I'm sampling the tree, and I'm filling in some of the tree. That's what I'm trying to do here. And I'm going to try to make more of it, because then I'll come back and I'll work it out. So I'm building the tree. I'm trying to get the tree built back in. There's the tree. I'm starting to get that tree. Now, I also got this fence area here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sample the fence, and then come over here, and I'm going to start putting the fence in, try to rebuild the fence area. And again, the only thing that you can do is you can rebuild the fence with what fence you have available here. So I'm trying to get some fence area that's possible for me to rebuild with. And then you got some bushes here. So you're going to come in and you're going to rebuild the bushes. And you're going to work your way across, and you're going to try to rebuild the bushes. And you got to be careful, because you don't want this to look like you're rebuilding it. Same thing goes for this. You can come over here and click on this. And, well, actually, I think I'll leave that. Then what you got to do is you come start work over here, grab this, and start working your way across this way. Got to be careful, because what happens is this will also create artifacts. And you see how that's beginning to create like a weird artifact? Got to be careful with that. So you got to kind of feel your way around this and see if you can get this thing to disappear. So that's what this is. This is a process of elimination. Very slowly and methodically, you're going to come through here, and you're going to start eliminating this as best you can, okay? And just keep working it until gradually, and right now, like I told you, I'm using this guy right here. which is the clone stamp tool. And the Option or Alt key is what you use to target it. Now, right now I'm holding down the Alt key. You see how the little symbol changes? Everybody see that? That's telling me that it's sampling that area. So when I let go of the key, after I click it to sample it, when I let go and move down, you see what it's doing? It's bringing that color down, and I'll sample it again. Come over here, bring that color in. So that's what I'm doing. I'm using that color to bring that color in. Then I'm going to click over here, and I'm going to start bringing that color in. So I can start creating something that begins to look sort of real. Then I'll click on this, and I'll start bringing that color over, and I'm trying to rebuild this whole area. Are you guys sort of beginning to see what I'm doing? Is it making sense to you?
Yes.
Can you see it's a nightmare?
Yes.
It's a nightmare, isn't it?
Yes.
All right. So really, that's the whole key, is that you're just going to little by little come in through here and just sample stuff and start rebuilding your area through here, rebuilding what you got so that you've got something that begins to look like a repair that will work. Okay? And just slowly move through this and get rid of that stuff. Try to make it as try not to create these artifacts. That's, I think, the big thing here, is to try to not create artifacts. It's really tricky to do, believe me when I tell you. And again, there are people that are excellent at this. I am not one of them, because simply it is not what I do. I don't do this for a living. I don't create these kind of things for a living. I do the kind of things that you saw me doing on the, here's another thing. Click here, grab a little of this, and come in and start putting a little of that up there, and maybe you'll start getting some sky area that will make sense. Maybe that's what you want right there. There we go. That's good. Yeah. So you see, what you're doing is you're trying to sample stuff that will make this work for you. Okay? Just try to make this thing look a little bit more like how it should look, how you believe it should look. So that's really what I'm doing, is I'm just trying to build this thing back in here. Okay? And you just keep going until little by little you make that whole thing go away. And in the end, you end up with something similar to that. Okay? So that's really what I'm doing. I'm just simply going in here, sampling, and then clicking and clicking and placing and creating, recreating, I should say, really recreating the area. That's what I'm doing. Click on this, recreate this area here. Try to recreate something. See how it's beginning to look believable? That's the whole thing. You're beginning to get this thing to look believable. That's what you're looking for. Looking for something that could be believable. That's really what you're trying to do. And it's not easy. Like I say, it takes time. It takes a little bit of effort to do this. So you just got to very slowly, very gradually work your way along and build this thing up. And you can change the size if you want. I mean, if you want to try banging a big thing out, or if you want to go in and go smaller. You know, sometimes it's better to go a little bit smaller. Sometimes it's better to go a little bit bigger. You know, and then you're just going to come in here and you're just going to keep working this and keep filling it in. Whoops, don't crop. Be careful with the keys you hit. That's another thing. Okay, and you're just going to keep working this. Maybe this should be a little bit bigger. Yeah, let's come in here and click on that. Let's come over here and just come over this way and start building this out. There we go. And so now we're starting to get this, and now we're going to come in here and just keep building this along and bring that up here and bring this down more. Hit the wrong one. There we go. So you just keep working it, and eventually you're going to get what you need here. But it is something that is laborious, all right? And you just got to keep fighting it until you get what you want, all right? So I'm getting there, and like I say, eventually what will happen is you'll end up with something that looks like that. Okay? So what do you think? You guys okay with this? You got a general idea what you're doing? Any questions or anything you need to know?
Not at this time.
Okay. So does this make sense? I only use, in this particular case, I personally only use this guy right here, which is the spot healing brush tool. And with the spot healing brush tool, I created a layer. This is the layer, okay? This is the actual, let me hide this layer. This is the actual layer, okay? That's the layer, and that's the original. So that's the old layer, and this is the, I'm sorry, this is the old layer, and this is the new layer, okay? So you could see that basically I've got, you know, some different things going on here, but this looks fairly clean. And eventually I think you can see that if I just keep working on this, eventually I'll chip this all away and you'll end up with something which is really, this has now been fixed. So it's really just very slowly maneuvering along, very slowly coming along and maneuvering down through here, and, you know, keep recreating the elements that you have here. That's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to just rebuild this. Just try to rebuild the thing like that, little at a time, and just come across here and rebuild it and get this kind of to go away. Let's see if I can maybe bring this over there a little bit, get some of that color in there, bring it so it's not so dark. Yeah, see, it's happening, but it's happening slowly. So that's really what it is. You just got to keep eating away at this, and eventually it'll all begin to look very real. Now, see what happened here? I did too many of these things, and I didn't change my positioning on my selection. So I end up with something that begins to look fake. So in order to fix that, I'm going to sample, and I'm going to throw that sample in a little bit. And you see how I've randomized it more? Did you see what I did? How I made those dots look like they were in a row, and it looked very unnatural? And all I did to fix it was come in and threw some more samples and brought some more color through it, and it kind of randomized it a little bit. So that's it. You can see I'm getting closer and closer to this thing to being done. That's really what you have to do. And again, that's because this is a really big piece that was ripped out of this, and you have to rebuild it a lot. Now, the problem with this particular piece is you don't get an awful lot of material up here to work from. You're very limited in your material. So that makes it kind of difficult for you to rebuild this tree, because you're getting very, you know, you're getting very limited material to work with to rebuild that tree. So it's kind of difficult to do because of what you have to work with. It's very limited. So it really makes it difficult on you to pull this off. So you just kind of have to work at it pretty hard. And that's essentially what I'm doing here. I'm just keeping going little by little and trying to get rid of the hole as much as I can. Eventually, after I get the hole gone, I can go back in and I can even improve it more by you know, playing around with some of the color and building better detail. But I'm just basically slowly trying to get this thing to go away little by little. And that's what you really got to do with it, you know. And after you get it done, you can come in here and you can start playing around with, you know, the shapes that are in here and see whether maybe you can make this thing start to look a little bit better, you know. So you really can do that kind of stuff. And again, I'm beginning to not do this very well because I'm not changing the size of my sampler a lot. And again, this is not what I am used to doing. I'm not really the best person at doing this, because it isn't my area of expertise. So anyway, that's basically it. That's what you're going to do. You're going to do your best job at repairing that photo, sort of like what I did here. And then, like I say, just keep tinkering with it, keep tooling with it until you get it where you like it. You know what I mean? And then you're basically done. That's that one. And you know, you're going to just come in here and just keep working it and keep making it look better until it looks believable. That's really what it comes down to. Make it look believable. All right, so it's getting there. So again, you just keep going in that direction and pulling things out and putting it in. And maybe here at this point, I'm going to start going in this direction again. See, so it's little by little beginning to fall together. So let's see that. That's probably what I want there. Yeah, so you see, little by little, it's getting there. It's just work. It's just work. You really just got to keep playing with it and keep sampling areas and keep bringing the sampling in until little by little it begins to look healed. And you can see it's getting closer now. We're getting actually closer now, and I might make this a little smaller. And again, it's starting to get closer, so you're just going to keep working along here like that, and then just keep sampling, keep checking what you're doing, and keep bringing it in, and little by little, it'll start happening. Let's see, I want something sort of like that here, I think, maybe. No, I don't really. It doesn't look right there. Actually, probably here. Let's try that. Let's try that over there. There we go. Yeah, that's a little bit better. And maybe a little of that over here. So you just, you know, you're trying to fill the holes with color that makes sense, you know? Trying to fill the holes with color that makes sense is what you're really doing. Trying to make this thing make sense. Okay? And you just keep going with it until you get to a point where you're happy with it. And then you basically got it, you know? And I'm getting there. I'm getting little by little. I'm getting there. It's starting to shape up in there. I still got some rough areas that I got to work out, but you can see that it does take a little bit of effort to do this. But if you stop and think about it, like I say, that's what it started out as. So you can see that. And again, if it was somebody, not myself necessarily, but somebody who really knew what they were doing, they would do a pretty terrific job of this. Mine is fairly mediocre, if you really want to know the truth. But that's essentially it. And I'm sticking with more or less just this tool right here, spot healing, and I'm using a layer, content aware, and sample all layers. And as far as the spot healing, or the clone stamp tool, sorry, the clone stamp tool, all I'm doing with the clone stamp tool is, there's my clone stamp tool. If I hold down the Alt or the Option key, I get that. And then if I click that area, let me see if I can click that area there, and then move it over to here, you see how that cloned that area over into there? That's what I'm doing. So if I come over here and click, let's make this a little bit bigger. Let's go a little bit bigger. If I come over here and I hold down the Alt key and click that and bring it down into here, you see what I just did? I just brought that down into that area right there. Okay, so that's more or less what I'm doing, is I'm coming in here and I'm cloning areas, and then I'm bringing the area over somewhere and I'm placing it somewhere, and that's, see how I did that? I just brought that down like that. That's really what it's all about. And come over here and click on this, again hold the Alt key, click on it, sample it, bring it over here, and I place that over there. So again, that's what I'm basically doing. I'm coming through here. Now let's try over here, clone that. Let's bring it over here. You see, so I'm basically just sampling areas to try to make the whole area fill in. All right, and I'm trying to make it look in a way that's kind of natural. Okay, so there it is. That's my demonstration of this particular image. Any questions or any thoughts, anything at all you want to say before I move ahead with the next one? You guys think you could pull this off? Does anybody think they'll have any problems with that? Yeah, right. It's actually going to be, I think you're going to find it's going to be a bit easier than you think. While I admit that this area up here is difficult because you saw me do it and you could see it was difficult for me to do, all this stuff in here, all this stuff out here is very easy to do, and you're just going to do that with this one right here. All you're going to do is you're going to work with the spot healing brush right there. That will do all of this for you. And the only thing that you have to remember is to create a layer. You're going to create your layer, right? And you're going to use content aware and sample all layers. That relates to that tool right there. That does not relate to the clone stamp tool. When you're working with the clone stamp tool, what you're doing is you're coming out and you are getting your clone stamp tool right here, and you come out and you hold down the Alt or the Option key and you look for that little symbol, and then you click, and then you move over to wherever you want to put that, and then click, and you see what I just did to her arm? I applied the sample that I grabbed over here over her arm, and I can continue doing that until eventually I can make her entire arm disappear, okay? Which is not what I really want to do, but I'm just trying to show you how that tool works, and it actually works pretty well. So again, what I did here was I did 3 or 4 of these clones. I'm going to come here and undo that. This is the history panel, and by just coming over to the history panel, and knocking back 3 or 4 clones, okay, I've made that go away. Now, if I come back here and click on that, I bring it back. You see what I'm talking about here? This is a history panel actually shows you everything that you've done up to this point, and you can back off of any part of it that you want. I can drag this thing back up here, and I can come all the way up to there, and I'm erasing all the stuff that I did down there. I'm just showing you the history panel because that's something that I think you're going to find very useful, especially when you're working with this program. You go to the window menu, and it's right here, history. And what it does is it will record every single thing that you're doing. All right? Pretty much wrapped up with this. Do I have any questions about it at all?
I have one question.
Go ahead.
On the Mac, I don't see a healing brush, but I see a color replacement brush. Would that be the healing brush?
No, you should see there. You might be seeing one of these other brushes. Whoops, sorry, hold on. You might be seeing one of these, either the spot healing, the healing brush, the patch tool, the content aware, and the red eye tool. One of those tools, if you'll notice that the tool right beneath the eyedropper tool on my toolbar, there are about 4 or 5 tools in there, and one of them is a spot healing brush. So take a look at about the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about the 6th tool down and see, are you seeing the patch tool?
Wait a minute.
Are you seeing that tool?
Well, it has, for some reason, my Photoshop toolbars disappeared. I got to get back in there.
Well, you go to the window and let's see, tools right here. See, I just made mine go away. Go to the window menu and hit tools and they come back up. Window menu is where all your panels are, okay? Your option panel at the top too, if your option panel accidentally gets knocked out, see, the option panel's disappeared on me. Up there, just go to the window menu and go options and the option panel comes back up. This is important because this gives you some aspects that what you want to work with. All right, so one of these tools, it could be the spot healing, the healing brush, the patch tool, content aware move tool, red eye tool. One of those tools might be showing, but there's 5 tools nested in there, and the one you're looking for is the spot healing brush tool.
Okay.
Did you find it?
Not yet, but I see the eyedropper, and right up under the eyedropper,
right beneath the eyedropper, there should be those tools, and there should be a little any tool. Just so that you guys know, I don't know whether any of you are aware of this or not, but when you go to your toolbar, you see that tool there, the move tool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you notice that there's no little square or no little triangle down the lower right corner of it?
Right.
Okay. That means that there's no other tools nested in there. The one right below it, which is the marquee selection tool, you notice it's got a little triangle at the bottom right?
Right.
Yeah, you click on that and hold for a second, and you can see that there are 4 other tools in there. That's the point. So any of these tools that have that little corner triangle, they have more than one tool under there. So you might be looking at this tool here. And if you click and hold for a second, they'll come up and you can grab the spot healing, and now you got your spot healing tool.
Okay.
Anybody, who is this that's having trouble finding it? Which one of you?
Janice?
Is that one? No.
Miss
J?
Miss
All right,
J.
Desiree and Wanda. Either one of you guys see this tool on your toolbar?
I have it on mine.
Okay, where's yours? Who's this?
It's
Desiree?
right up under the eyedropper.
Who is it? Marla? Wanda?
Yeah, it's right up under the eyedropper.
Okay, so it is.
She has a Mac.
It is under the eyedropper,
Mac.
and probably what it is one of your other tools. One of these other tools are showing instead of the spot healing. So, like I say, there's the healing.
That's what I'm saying. It's showing as a color replacement.
Color replacement tool.
A color replacement
aware
brush?
red eye tool. Now, I don't know what the color replacement tool is. Do any
It's
of
a
you?
brush. It's a color replacement brush, and I'm wondering if that's the healing tool.
No. It's the healing tool. Looks like that. It actually looks like a band-aid with the little selection. You see it?
No, it's not coming up on mine.
Working on my Mac and my PC, and both the options are the same, so it should be within that section.
Okay. I would say it's in the first section. Now, let me ask you a question.
Okay, I see the red eye. Okay, wait a minute.
Okay, so your red eye is probably nested with it.
I just found it.
There you go. Okay, there you go. All right, so you have found it.
Yeah, it was on some blurring. It was under the blurring.
Yeah. Now, this is why, this is a really good example why I think it's so important as an instructor to have the mics on for everybody. Because we, between the four of us, were able to help you find that tool, and you probably would have struggled a lot longer on your own to find it. But because I have a PC here and one of the other girls have a Mac, they were able to verify that they found it on their Mac and give me a general idea of where it was located so we could then zone you in on it. So that's why I like the idea of having live sessions that have on mics, because this gives everybody the opportunity to act as much as we possibly can like we're in a classroom. You know what I mean?
And I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we're all good then, right? Any other questions about this one? No? You guys are champs. All right, so now we're on the fixed girl. Okay, so again, this is another one of these nightmares for me because it is not what I do. It is not who I am, and I struggle with this. I don't do this easily. There are many things that I do very well, and I do them very easily. This is not one of them. So ultimately, I'm going to show you how I would go about doing this. Keep in mind that you have two very good videos that show how to do this. Now, of course, the one where the guy does the acne, maybe that's not really as good as the other one, but the one that the other guy showed you is very similar to what I'm about to do. Okay. Once again, though, an important thing is to go to the image and go to image size and take a look at this. And notice that this guy here is almost 10 inches wide. So it's 9.8 inches wide by 6.5 inches wide, 72 resolution. So this is what I want to show you. And again, I'm not going to, actually, let me hit cancel and let me go in and open, let me go file open. Let me open the other one up. I'll tell you why I'm going to do this, because I want to show you something. This is 104, and this is week 2. Yeah, so here's Harley before. Here's Harley before. So now we have Harley before up here. Okay, so here's what I want to show you. Go to image, image size, and we have this, which is 9.8 inches. If I needed this thing to go, I want you to watch what happens. I want this to go to 300 pixels per inch, okay? And what it's going to do is it's going to, let's see, I have to resample this. Here we go. Now, in order to make this work, you see what happens here? Check this out. 300 pixels means that I would have to make this image 2.353 inches wide, as opposed to, let's go back and let's go 72, and let's click back up in here and resample. Actually, I can't do it. Let me cancel. Look, image size, the original image size is 72 pixels, is 9 inches. But in order for me to make this thing 300 pixels, okay, what it needs to do is it needs to reduce the size of the picture to only 2 inches, less than 2 1/3 inches wide. That's what it needs to do. Now I hit OK and go view 100%, and it's showing me this size right here. Okay, I believe that that's actually not correct. But that is what it's ultimately doing. It's showing me this thing as the size it is. Image size, look, it's no longer 9 inches. It's 300 pixels, but it's only 2.353 inches wide by 1.57 high. Okay? So I just wanted to point that out to you because it's important for you to know that in order to adjust the resolution on something like this, save changes, no. In order for me to do that for this picture, so if this were something I was using in print, I would have a real hard time doing what I want to do with it, all right? Because I would have to make this image a lot smaller. So if I needed the image to be, image size, if I need it to be in the neighborhood of 9.5 inches wide. With the resolution I got, I wouldn't be able to do it. That's my point. So you really need to know this before you start working on stuff like this. If this is something that's going to be used on the web, you can then take a look at the pixels and the inches, or on the pixels. See, now this is a 100 by 100 pixel width, or 100%. No, I'm sorry, I want pixels. It's not letting, for some reason, it's not letting me see pixels. Maybe I got to go here. I wonder why it's not letting me see. Oh, here it is. 706 pixels by 471 pixels. Image size 972.2K, 974.2K. So it's 706 pixels wide. Excuse me. So again, I can make this thing smaller, and I would, because you'd never use an image this big necessarily on the web. But you would, however, want something 9 inches perhaps for a printed piece. So that's what you need to be careful of, all right? Any questions about that? I don't know whether I said that.
Actually, I do
Go ahead. Did you say you
have
had
a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Desiree. I do a lot of painting in Photoshop, and usually my canvas sizes are 8,000 by 8,000 with a 300 DPI. Is it because this is a preset image that it brings the the DPI down? Like, I guess I don't understand why a larger image can't handle the 300.
A larger image can handle it. What I'm saying exactly is that if you're working with an image, you have to know the size of the image, and you have to know the pixels per inch, the PPI. And there are 3 basic levels of pixels per inch, PPI. There's 72, which means that with every inch of your image, there's 72 pixels in it. So try to imagine 72 pixels packed into your inch of image. Then there's 150 or 180 in that neighborhood, 150 let's say, which is twice the amount roughly in that image. So you got twice as many pixels in it. So what is that doing? 72 pixels per inch means that it's going to be less pixels, less information, less clarity, less sharpness in the picture. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So if you go to 300 pixels per inch, that means that every inch of your picture, there's 300 pixels in it. So that is like, what, 4 times the amount of pixels for 72? So that means 4 times the amount of information per inch in your picture, which means a much greater level of detail. And why would you need that? Well, I'll tell you why. Because if you take a look at the monitor that you're looking at right here, the monitor can only understand 72 pixels per inch. It don't know what to do with 300 pixels per inch. You could have a picture that goes online, into a website that's made up of 300 pixels per inch. It's going to be a big image, and it's going to have a lot of size to it, which means that it's going to be slower to download. And the problem is your computer isn't going to be able to read those 300 pixels anyway. It's only going to be able to see 72, a percentage equal to 72% of it, 72 pixels of it. So it doesn't really make any sense to put something that has greater pixels onto something that isn't going to be able to deal with them. And it's almost the same thing with print. If you go to print, the print has the capacity, or actually I should say the requirement of 300 pixels per inch. In order to get a nice, clean, crisp, sharp, with great detail image, you have to have probably at least 300 pixels per inch. So if you give it an image that's 72 pixels per inch, what do you think is going to happen? What would you think would happen? Anybody?
It's going to be missing information.
Yeah, it's going to be missing information, which essentially means that it's pixel data, which if you stop and think about it, what does that mean? It means that your picture is going to look crummy. It's going to look blurry. It's going to look out of focus. It's going to be pixelated. It's going to be coarse. It's not going to be highly detailed and refined. So that's the problem. And I ran into that problem today, where I'm working on a project, and they gave me images that are too low resolution. So when the piece was printed out, the pictures didn't look right. So the boss came and said, why do these pictures look like this? And I said, because I've told you guys from the very beginning, you need to give me pictures that are high enough resolution, and you keep giving me pictures that are too low resolution. As long as you keep giving me these pictures that are too low resolution, your images are going to look cruddy. So I actually saw it happen. I'm somebody who, I know all about this. It still happened to me. Why? Because I'm being given pictures that are not the correct resolution. So that's what I'm trying to make you guys aware of, is when you work in Photoshop, it's absolutely essential for you to know that you need to have enough pixel data to make your image work for whatever media device that you're working with. So if you're working on the web, that's probably the easiest one for you because you only need 72 pixels per inch. And if you're working on a print that's going to be printed from, say, like a color copier in an office. A lot of offices have color copiers today. If you're printing something from a color copier in your office, and we have one at work, they print things off of that. Or if you take your print over to Kinko's or Staples, you guys have heard of Staples and Kinko's, right? Most of those places have digital color copiers. Those require 180, 150 in that range. And then if you go to a 4-color process offset environment, which is a very expensive way to print, you need 300 pixels per inch. So it is important that you know this. That's why I'm making such a fuss about it each week, because it is one of the most important things that I want you to walk out here. Since this is a Photoshop course, it wouldn't be proper of me not to make a big deal out of this, because it's important for this particular application. If you're working in Illustrator, it isn't an issue at all because of the nature of that kind of piece of art. But when you're working with this kind of art, all of this is absolutely essential for you to know. So I need to make a big stink about it the whole time that I'm with you, so that when you walk away, you'll never forget it. And other people, when you deal with them, you'll already know. So if you get into a class where they're talking about this stuff, you'll go, I remember Bill talking about this when we were in our beginner class of Photoshop. Okay? Any questions? Your question, I guess you were asking me about, I'm not exactly sure I answered your question about your painting. You paint with Photoshop. Who was that? Who was that? Wanda?
Desiree.
Oh, Desiree. Did I answer your question?
Desiree.
Did I answer?
Yeah, that makes sense. Just start large. And yeah, I'm guessing just what I'm taking away from this is to always just request as large of a photo as you can, because that way if they decide to go print, go photo web, no matter what, you have the resolution to work with.
That's right. Now, the thing that's important for you to keep in mind is that the bigger the image, the more flexible it'll be for you. So if you get an image, I've seen images come to me that are 75 inches wide by whatever height. Now, you say to yourself, my God, 75 inches? Yeah, but you know what? 75 inches, usually the image is 72 pixels per inch by 75 inches. So in other words, I'm going to take the thing and I'm going to make it 300 pixels per inch from 72 pixels per inch. So right away what's going to happen is probably maybe a third or more of that is going to go down in size. So, again, if you're making a poster can be 36 inches high by 24 by 36, or somewhere in that neighborhood. So you have to make sure that whatever image you're using is going to be big enough to do whatever you want it to do on a poster like that. If you're not working on a poster, you just have to make sure that your image is big enough to do what you want it to do on whatever media that you're working with. And this is only a problem in Photoshop. This is where you have something which is known as resolution dependence. You don't have resolution dependence with vector art. Vector art can be made as big or as small as you want, as many times as you want. It has total flexibility. But you don't have total flexibility when you're working in Photoshop. So, again, this is a Photoshop class, and all the stuff that I'm showing you is very important, but one of the most important things is, and I've had this happen to me a number of times, where I've worked on things that were not the right resolution. I spent a lot of time doing a beautiful job on it, only to find out that in the end it was not going to be possible for me to make the image the size that I want. So I, in fact, wasted all my time because I had to go back in, find a picture that was bigger, and do the whole thing all over again. So that's why it's important to know that when you're doing these things, it's going to be maybe output either in print or to a digital print or to the web, and each one has its own set of requirements, and it's a good idea to check to make sure that the image will meet those requirements before you get too far into it. If you get too far into it and it doesn't meet it, then you've wasted time. All right? All right, so now I got my girl here, and what I'm going to do with this is essentially the same thing. I got 3 layers here. I did the lips. See, you can see the lips? See when I click the lips layer off, do you see how the lips go back to being the way they were? I got some color on the lips. Can you see that?
Yeah.
All right, and I got the eyes. You see when I close the eyes off, the eyes go back to their original color. See it? And then I have this smooth layer, okay? And I'm going to kind of show you how I did that smooth layer. And then I have the cleanup layer. Okay, so the cleanup layer is the first thing that you're going to do, and then you're going to do a smooth layer. And again, there are many ways of doing this. I'm going to do it one way. If you go back to the video, all right, this video right here, Photoshop Smooth Skin, and like I told you, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that in your announcements so that you can go back in and you can watch that video again. They'll show you a slightly different way to do this, okay? All right, so I am going to take this and I'm going to bring the cleanup layer and put it inside here, and then I have to drag that cleanup layer. It's actually at the bottom, isn't it? I wonder why it's doing that. I don't like the way that looks, so I'll bring it back out and bring it down to the bottom. Okay, so, and now it's actually, the whole thing is misbehaving. So let's go File, Revert. I don't know what I did to make this thing. Okay, here we go. So there, so it is. Revert that. Maybe it's because I had a, no, not at all. All right, well, anyway, so the first thing that we're going to do with this is we're going to do the cleanup layer. So I'm going to hide these layers, and I'm going to go in, and I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to call this layer Cleanup. That's what I did. Okay, Cleanup, and then I'm just going to drag that layer down right in front of the girl. And again, come in and zoom in. That's probably pretty good for the time being. And what I'm going to do with this is get her to where I'm seeing as much of her as I can at this point. On the cleanup layer, I'm going to get this guy right here. Again, it's the spot healing brush tool, just like we used in the other one. I have sample all layers, that's important, and content aware. So what I'm going to now do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use my bracket tool, and I'm going to bring this down, and I'm going to start, there we go. Come on. Now what? What's the problem now? Now the cleanup tool's not working. You know what? This is giving me trouble. I'm just going to open her up again. Let me get it. Wait a minute. Here we go. Cancel. There we go. Now it's suddenly working. Okay. All right, so now it's suddenly working. So I'm just going to come in here, and I'm going to start looking for all the little imperfections. Oh, and the hairs, see, you can actually come in here and you can paint these hairs away. See, I get these little ratty looking hairs that kind of are hanging down into things. You can actually come in here and you can wipe them out as well. So come in here and just, you know, kind of like clean up. Now all of a sudden it's choking up on me again. My computer's doing this. My computer's sort of freezing up on me. Hold on. Yeah, see how that computer's freezing? Oh, jeez. Come on. Yeah, the program's frozen. Hold on a minute. It's going. I'm stuck until it decides it's going to let me go. So really, here we go. There we go. Okay. So now it's back. Really, a lot of this is just coming in and cleaning up blemishes. That's really what this is. And you always do that first. You want to get the skin looking as pristine as you can before you go in and do anything else. Okay? And you can, like I say, you can change the size of this, and, you know, you can come up and you can kind of try to, you know, do a nicer patching of the area here where there's some dark spots that you don't like. I don't really like working with the thing too big. I prefer it to be on the smaller size myself. So I just try not to make it too big. But I'm just cleaning and smoothing a lot of the stuff that I see here. That's really what I'm doing, okay, and trying to get some of that stuff to go away. All right, and now I'm just going to start working down through here and looking for the worst case scenario, the biggest spots, the biggest things that annoy me when I look at her skin, right? You understand that? You just keep doing this. Keep working your way around and try to kind of smooth her out a little bit. Sometimes it does a little bit strange things. I'm not sure I'm liking what's happening here. So what I can do is I can come in here and I can nip some of that out if I don't like it. Let's go back up a little bit. See, again, that's what I like about the history panel. So I can actually go back in and I can undo a lot of it. All right, so I actually undid some of it. I'm just going to keep cleaning. See how that, sometimes it goes badly for you when you do this. It doesn't always give you what you want. So anyway, I'm just going to keep coming around here, and I'm going to keep removing spots and bringing this down. See, and I got all this hair here. I can come through here very carefully, and I can make that hair go away, which I think you need to do as well. You just kind of go in here and make that hair go away a little bit, see? And just keep knocking off as much of these little bumps and things as you can until you get her looking fairly smooth. Okay, now she's beginning to look a lot smoother, okay? And I'm actually in pretty good shape at this point. So what I will do is I'll come in here. Again, let me make this a little bit smaller. Come in here and just, come in and look for some of the finer stuff and just knock some of that out. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take a zoom in onto her lip. And I want to get rid of her little, whatchamacallit there, her little lip loop, lip ring, whatever that is. I don't know what they call them. I live a very secluded life. So I'm going to come here, click on this. To do this, I'm actually going to do the clone stamping on this. So I'll come over here and I'll start clone stamping this guy very carefully, very slowly. I'm not going to go nuts over this, and I'll probably even make it smaller. And I'm just going to come in and I'm just going to try to nip this away, get rid of that thing. Okay, because I don't really want her to have a lip ring. I want to get rid of that. So I'm just going to work my way across here and take a little at a time away until I get it looking like it doesn't exist anymore. And maybe I'll make this a little bit bigger like that. And then I'll click over here, clone, 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 clone. Okay, and then maybe I'll come over here and click here and clone, clone, clone down. See, I'm trying to very carefully make that go away. And I'm doing it as carefully as I can. There. And that's probably pretty good. I think I pretty much got it. Now let's go to the view menu and see what it looks like fit on screen. Okay, so, it's not too bad. It probably is a little off, but let's keep one thing in mind. I am going to be going in there later on, and I am going to be putting false lips over here. So more than likely, I'll be okay. All right? So, again, just continue to get rid of some of the stuff here. Oh, geez. Yeah, see, this thing is going to freeze up again. Hold on. I'm waiting for this thing to process. It froze. Come on. Oh, geez. Yeah, that's it. It's for some reason it's freezing. I don't know exactly sure why it's doing that. Come on, come on. Oish. Oh, come on. Give me a break, will you? This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. See, it's frozen. That's what it is. It's process. There we go. Okay. Man, that is murder. All right. So anyway, I noticed a couple of little things here, a couple of little spots that I don't like. So I'm going to clone stamp them away. I get rid of that by using the clone stamp. Okay. And then this down here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to clone stamp this away. Yeah, see, so I would say to you that the clone stamp, although it's not the most modern of technology, it's an older form, it works really pretty good, and you could actually still use it. All right, so as you can see, I hide my cleanup, okay? I think you get the general idea of what I've done, and she actually is beginning to look quite a bit better, isn't she? Right? So there's the first step, is to do that cleanup. Now the second step is to duplicate this layer. This is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to duplicate the layer. And I'm going to drag this layer up above the cleanup layer. Okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the, again, with this, I'm going to go to the filter menu, and I'm going to go to blur. And he did surface blur. So I'm going to do surface blur. And let's drag the pixels up a bit. Let's actually bring the threshold up. There we go. That's what we want, although that's way too much. Let's bring it back down. Bring this back. I want it to be right about there. There we go. And hit OK. All right. Now there is my surface blur. And now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to actually do something slightly different than him. Since this is on its own layer, I'm going to use the eraser tool, all right? And I'm going to come in here, and I am going to set the eraser to a very low number. I'm going to set the thing down to a very low number, and I'm going to start erasing. Actually, what I can do, if I wanted to, is I can knock away a lot of this by just selecting this, come around like this, and select a lot of this. And you'll see why I'm doing this in a minute. I'm going to come around here, and I'm going to select a good bit of this around here. All right? Bring it down, and I'm going to come way out to here, and come way up to here, and come over to here. And now I got that whole area selected on my original layer, my blur layer. All right? I'm going to hit delete. And you see that made all that go away. Now here's what I want to do. I'm going to call this blur so you could see where I'm going with this. All right, now I'm going to go select, deselect, and now you see what I've done is I've softened her skin a lot, and I've kept her hair intensely sharp. So now all I got to do is go in and feather the edges somewhat and clean up some of her face, and I'll end up with something that looks pretty good. Okay, now I also have this thing in her lip here, which I'm going to have to get rid of, but I can deal with that in a minute. So let me go back and do the same thing on the other side. I'm back on the blur layer. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click, 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 click. Come around here, click, click, and keep coming around and come down and come around like this and click and just skirt right down the back of her, back to this area right here, and then go all the way up to here and come all the way over to there. Okay? I didn't quite connect it. There we go. Okay, and hit delete. And now I got both sides of her head, and select, deselect. So now I got both sides of her head nice and sharp, and I still have her skin very soft. So what I'm going to do is the same thing that guy did, except I'm going to probably do it a little bit more. I'm going to go on a little bit more of a softer way of doing it. I'm going to use the blur layer. There's the blur layer, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here with my eraser tool, and I'm going to set the number very small down to like maybe 7. All right? I got 9 actually. All right? Unlike him where he did it big. I'm going to start painting over top of her eyebrows. It's almost the same thing that he's doing, except that I'm just using smaller percentages to get me going. So I paint her eyebrows until I get her eyebrows the way I want it. Then I come in here and I paint the eyes until I get the eyes doing the detail that I want in there. Okay, so I'm going to keep working on the eyes a little bit until I get the eyes brought back up. Okay, and I want to try to keep as much of this blurring as I can because that's kind of like atmosphere. So I keep building the eye back until I get it to where I want it. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do the same thing on this eye over here. I'm going to come over and I'm going to bring that eye area back. Bring this whole eye area back so it's nice and strong again. Bring that eye area back. Okay, and I probably will soften this edge. I'll come up here and I'll soften this edge and bring some of that edge back right here. And I'll soften along this edge as well because I want some of the detail. I want it to look somewhat real. And then I'm going to work my way around here, okay? And I'm going to kind of work some of that detail back. So this is what I'm doing. I'm basically working back detail, but I'm starting carefully in areas where I can kind of control it. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to bring back the details in the areas that I can control. Now, I want the jaw to start sharpening up. So I'm going to come up and bring the size of this up quite a bit. And I'm going to reduce this amount, and I'm going to back off the eraser slightly because I actually don't like that. Bring the number down very small. Bring it way down to about like 2. Right about like that. 3 is good. And now I'm going to just kind of wash down this jaw area. Okay, so you see what I'm doing? I'm bringing back that detail by that jaw area. That's what I'm doing. I don't want to bring back everything. I just want to bring back some of that jaw line. That's what I want. I want to sharpen up certain areas. Can you see what's beginning to take place? It's becoming very sensuous looking and it's working very nicely. Now, I want to do the lips. So I'm going to bring the lips down. Sorry, I went the wrong way. I want to bring the lips back, and I want the lips to have a lot of detail. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to work around the lips. And while I'm working around the lips, I'm going to also remove that little guy right there. See, so I'm going to get rid of this. Gradually working that away until the lips come back, and that thing is gone. And I'm actually now looking at what's beneath it, the layer that's beneath it. But I have to work on this, and I'll probably have to make that smaller in order to get that gone without hurting the rest of it. So I'm trying to get rid of that piece by her mouth. And it's going to take a little time because I don't want to overdo it. I want to do it a little at a time. Let me zoom in a little bit so I can get closer to it. You can see. See, I'm struggling with it because I'm trying to do it a very little at a time. I don't want to overdo it. So I'm trying to get rid of it a little at a time. And it'll take me a minute or two to get it off there, but it'll be gone eventually. Okay, so it's almost gone. And then I want to show you what I did. Okay, so that's probably good enough. Let's go to the view menu, fit and screen. Okay, so what's going on here? What's going on here is this. I'm going to hide the cleanup. I'm going to hide the original. You see what I'm doing? You see what's happening here? What I'm doing essentially is I'm making some of this face go away. That's what I'm doing. I'm making some of this face go away. And by making the face go away, what I'm ending up with is something which is the area that I want to work on, this area in here, okay, the skin tone area, that's remaining. That's remaining. And that's what you're getting. You're getting the underlying layers showing. So I'm going to bring some of this nose back. I want to bring the nose back so it looks more real. So I'm bringing back the nose very carefully and some of the shadow for the nose. So what I'm doing is I'm literally leaving certain areas undisturbed so I get this blurry kind of feel, and certain areas that I want to bring up the detail on, I'm removing so that I can get this detail back in. That's essentially what I'm doing with this. Okay, and if I hit my cleanup, there is more or less what we end up with. Okay, I still see a little bit of that down there that's still got to be resolved a little bit, but so you get the general idea what I'm doing here. I end up with original photo, I have a cleanup, and then I have a blur layer, put them together, and we end up with something like this. And if I want to, I can still come in here and I can still, you know, work on some of the details that I'm seeing. I guess it's working. Let me see if I can get that to work. Let's hide the blur layer. Yeah, actually, you know what it is? I think it's on the actual blur layer. That's what it is. So actually, what I want to do is go on the blur layer and see if I can get that to go away, what that does. Yeah, see, now it's got some stuff going on to it, so now it's going to give me trouble again. But let me have a minute, let it do its thing. So basically, that's what I did. I kind of went in here and I kind of made this thing work so that you're getting a girl that's fairly clean and It gives you a nice softness to certain areas, almost like painterly, and then certain other areas you get nice sharpness. So that's essentially it. And I still have to work some more up in here. I still see that there's a little too much blurriness on this edge of the hair here. I'd have to work that out a little bit. So let me see. I'll come in here on this blur layer, and this is going to be the eraser tool. So I'd have to bring that up a little bit. Bring that up a little bit, and let's bring it down and erase a little bit more of that area here, because I want that detail there. I want that little bit of detail right there. That's better. Okay, you know, and again, probably a little more in here, maybe just a little bit more in there, not too much, but there you have her. And maybe I'll come along the back a little bit. Let me knock some of this back off a little bit, because there's still a little bit too much down in there. Let me bring it down. There, I think that's beginning to look a little bit better. Maybe a little in here. Let's knock back a little bit of it there so that you can, doesn't look quite as blurry. You know, you just got to play with it a little bit, but you got to be careful at the same time. You got to be careful. I think that's probably pretty good. That looks pretty good. So what do you guys think so far? Fairly convincing?
Somewhat.
You guys think you could do this? Well, look, all I did was that layer right there, which is a blur layer. All it was a duplicate of her. I blurred her. Let me hide it. I blurred her, and then I just kind of went out here on that blur layer, and I'm just erasing all the stuff that's out here. And I'm smoothing it down and making it, see, if I really wanted to do this well, I would spend more time cleaning this up. But right now, I'm just trying to give you a general idea of what I'm doing with it. And then you have the cleanup layer. The cleanup layer, you know how to do. You can see that, right? That's just basically creating a layer and doing the same sort of cleanup you did in the other picture. So now you got these two layers, and that's what you end up with so far. Now, the last thing that I did here is this. I came in, I zoomed in on the eyes, and I did something a little bit different than the other guy did. I come over here, instead of using the brush tool, I'm going to use this tool right here, which is I prefer working with the polygon lasso tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come over here and click, and click, and click, and then click, and then click around the eye, and I'm going to make a selection around the eye about like that. Okay, so I've now selected that eye, and I'm going to come over to the other eye, and I'm going to hold the Shift key down, and I'm going to start clicking here to make a selection on this eye until I get something like this, okay? And then what I tend to like to do with mine, now that I've got them, I'm going to create a new layer, okay? And I'm going to call this layer Eyes, E-Y-E-S. Now, before I do anything with these eyes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the Select menu, and I'm going to go Modify, Feather. And I'm going to put a feather radius of 2 on it. What a feather does is that takes that edge and it'll make it slightly softer. So I'll hit OK, and did you see it change? I got a slightly soft feather color going on here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to pick a color. Let's pick some kind of a color, like a nice blue, bright blue color. Let's hit blue and hit OK. And then on the eyes layer, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill them with blue, okay? And actually, let's go Edit, Undo, Paint Bucket, and let's go Select, Modify, Contract, and I'm going to contract it by 2 pixels, okay? So essentially, I don't know whether you noticed or not, but when I applied that color, it bled. So I probably even should make it 3. So I'm going to make it smaller, the selection area smaller. I probably went too far. Let's go Edit, Undo, and let's go Select, Modify, Contract by 2. Let's go 2. I think 2 is probably right. Hit OK. Yeah, that's actually still too much. Let's go Edit, Undo again, and let's just go Select, Modify, Contract, and let's just make it by 1. 1, and hit OK. Yeah, that's better. That's it. That's what I want. Now I'm going to dump the blue in there. Okay, so now I got the blue dumped in there. Go View, Fit Artboard, or Fit on Screen, and Select, Deselect, And the first thing that I can do is come in here and I can start playing around with the, I can start playing around with my blend modes. That's the hue layer. So you can see what that does with the hue layer. I can also go to color. That's what it does with color. And I can also come in here and I can go overlay. And that's what it does with overlay. And then if I want, I can come in here and I can play around with my opacity and I can adjust the opacity on it until I get a color that I like. Okay? Does that make sense to you what I've done?
Yeah, it makes sense. Just how.
You think you could do it?
Just remember to do it.
Huh? You guys can do it. You can watch the video and you can do it. Now, one thing more, quickly, one thing more. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go to, I'm sorry, with the eyes layer selected, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click on adjustment and I'm going to go hue saturation. And what I'm going to show you is what the guy was showing you. You could use this slider. Oh, and by the way, I'm sorry. Before I do this, let me hit this to 0. 0. Okay. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make that hue, saturation, and adjustment work only on the eyes layer, not on the rest. Now, did you see what happened when I clicked on this and I dragged this thing over? Do you see how it affected the entire piece of art?
Yes.
All right. So you don't want that. So what you want to do is this. You want to make sure that you hold the Alt key down. You see what happens when I hold the Alt key down and I click that place right between those two layers? You see that little symbol comes up?
Yes.
All right. What that's telling me is when I click on that, it indents it, and now this is going to work only on the eye layer. Now watch what happens when I drag the slider now. Look at that. Isn't that great?
Yeah, she got red eyes on.
There you go. Now she's got these beautiful greenish blue eyes. Beautiful, huh? I like it a lot. You could also play around with the saturation and bring the saturation down, you know, and get any kind of color that you want. The lightness. I think I like that color right there. So that's where I'm going to end with that one. I got only a couple of minutes left. I'm going to have to show you this next week, okay? Because we're running out of time. I also want to just quickly show you the layer. So I'm going to come over here, create a new layer. This is going to be called lips. Whoops, I don't want that. Hold on, let's go to lips. Lips, L-I-P-S. And then what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to come in here. Let's zoom in on this a bit. Okay, and I'm going to come in here, and I as I told you, I really do enjoy working with this tool here. I think this tool does just as good of a job as any other does. And I'm going to just work my way around, and I'm going to create the general shape of the lips, trying to make it look fairly close to what's there. And then I'm going to come down like this, and come like this, and then come around like this, and around like this, and around like this, and kind of bulges out a little bit here, and then it comes back in here like this, and then here and here. Okay, so there's your selection. Okay, on the lips layer, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to pick a bright red right there. And I'm just going to dump a bright red into it. Okay, so there's my bright red. Actually, Control Z. Before I do that, go to the filter or the select menu and go modify feather and put a feather of 3 on it. Okay, hit OK. And then I'm going to go select, modify, contract by 1 and hit OK. There. And now I'll dump my red into it. There's my red. Okay, and now I'm going to go select, deselect. And now I come up here and I put a color on it. Okay, or if I want, I can come in here and I can put a hue on it. And the hue doesn't really work all that well. Let's go to overlay. There's the overlay. Okay, and let's go view fit artboard in window or fit on screen. There's her lips. Color looks terrible. So what I would do with that is I'd click on this and I'd go into a hue and saturation, and I'd play around with the hue on it. And again, see what happens? It wants to just drag all this that way. So what I'm going to do is come in here and I'm going to hold the Alt or Option key and click between the two of them, and now it is only on that layer of the lips. And I'll click an interesting color like this, and let's go saturate, let's desaturate it somewhat like that. And there you go. And there you have it. Okay? And that's it. I'm done. Any questions? Silence. Was it terrible? Anybody still there?
Yeah. Do we have to get rid of the lip ring?
No, it's okay.
What happened? What were you saying?
Do we have to get rid of the lip ring?
No. I just
Okay.
did because I thought it looked prettier without it. But no, you can leave it if you want. You know, again, I'm looking for you to do something like this. I'm looking for you to come up with, you know, some kind of a cleaned up version. Again, did I do the best job in the world? No, I did not. I still see some marks in here that could be gone and this could be gone. But I think I did enough of a job that you get the general idea of this. And as I explained to you, that I'm not really a retouching guy. This is not my forte. I do other things. So, I mean, I do the best I can to give you an idea how this is supposed to be done. All right. So there you go. I'm done. It's 9 o'clock. We're ready to end our lesson for tonight. I'll give you one more moment. Is there anything you want to ask me before I let you go?
No, there's nothing I have to say.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. All right, so then you all have a good night, and keep in mind that I will be here tomorrow night, and I will be in Blackboard Collaborate Wednesday night and Saturday night if you want to come in and work with me, okay?
Okay.
All right, so you all have a good night. I'm going to end right now.